Hey there, it's Mitch Goldberg. We are just getting started with a new episode, all brand new live episode. Be the boss of your money. That's what this show's about. Let's see if we get a few more people in here. We've got a few people watching right now. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. We are about to switch to camera 1. 3, 2, 1. Here we are. Be the boss of your money. This show is about helping you take complete control of your money. Think about that. Money controls us in so many aspects of our life. So I've come up with a concept, a format, a show to teach you everything I've learned in over 30 years of my career working directly with financial accounts, with retail clients, with families, to give you what you need to know, the tools, investing, borrowing, saving. It's all about personal finance, planning for the future. Start with the goals, figure out your time horizon, and work backwards and see the micro steps that you have to take every year, every quarter, every month, every week, every day, sometimes every hour. And that's what we're going to get into. So today we've got some big news. The NASDAQ held its own today. It wasn't a great day for the NASDAQ, but after yesterday, I'm actually pretty impressed. New record for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a tame inflation report. But the biggie today, the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. This thing is bloody huge. We're going to get into it, see what the deal is, and we're going to take care of all this today. So let's roll the intro and get ready to learn. Here we go. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate this. Your time is very valuable. I understand that. I get that. So the fact that you chose to spend a few minutes of it with me means a lot to me. And I want to just provide you value every day. I live stream every Monday through Thursday at 4:30 p.m. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. I'm always sharing nuggets of information and sometimes some aspects from my personal life as well, because I'm a human too, and I want to get to know you. I want you to get to know me. So on Instagram, my handle is at InstaMitchG. On LinkedIn, Mitchell, that's with 2 L's, Mitchell Goldberg, AIF. Just search for Mitchell Goldberg. You'll see my picture. I'm wearing a nice suit with a pink tie. You can't, well, there's a lot of Mitchell Goldbergs, believe it or not, but you'll find me there. Client First Strategy on Facebook and Client First Strategy. Client First is one word. Client First Strategy on YouTube as well. And on all of these channels, I'm sharing information, knowledge, lessons from watching my own mistakes, certainly. But, after helping people for over 30 years, the whole time working directly with retail clients, that's you, that's me, that, we're retail clients. I'm a client too. What this means is I've learned a lot. I've seen so many people's mistakes. So I learned from other people's mistakes, but I've got a lot of very successful clients, not necessarily because they've made a ton of money, although some of them do extraordinarily well. But even the ones who just have, let's say, a regular income, they've gotten good at tax savings and investing and learning about compounding and the value of time. There's just a lot to learn and a lot to share. And that's what this show is about. So my mistakes that I've seen new clients come in that they've made that I've had to help get them back on track. And there's no right age for this. So I help people of all ages. And this show is for people of all ages. It's for you. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. I would love to see your questions there. If you're watching in the replay, welcome to you as well. Certainly hit me up with your questions. I'd love to answer them. Words of wisdom from you, words of encouragement are always welcome here. Let's make this a community, because that's how I feel about you. I feel like we're part of a special community, a special club. Okay, let's talk. $1.9 trillion stimulus. This thing is a freaking whopper. Not as big as the $2.2 trillion stimulus that was passed last spring when the pandemic first started, but that stimulus, that saved our national rear ends. It really did. Without that, things would have been much, much worse. I mean, imagine mortgage forbearance, rent forbearance, stimulus checks went out. Okay. What else did we get? Stimulus checks, forbearance, extended federal unemployment benefit, and so many other things. That was passed in a bipartisan way. The one that you're seeing that was just announced today, that was passed through Congress, it's expected to be signed by President Biden on Friday. And I was wondering, why doesn't Biden just sign it now? Just get it to his, just email it. You put it through DocuSign. You know, we all use DocuSign. Just, come on, Nancy and Chuck, DocuSign it to the president. He clicks away, signs digitally. You sign digitally when you get it back, and it's done. Well, actually, there's a few minor adjustments that have to be tied together between the House version and the Senate version. It's agreed on, but you just have to codify it, put it all in writing, and it could take a day or two. It could take even longer than that. This is a huge bill with a lot of money going out to a lot of different people, all the states, education, COVID testing, vaccine manufacturing. I mean, it's extended federal unemployment, much bigger child tax credits. I mean, this thing is a monster of a bill. If I had my way to see no bill or the way it is now, I would have chosen now, because I think it's better than nothing. The argument is, do we really need such a big bill? The economy is starting to open. I mean, wasn't it a week ago and 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago, the market, investors were worried about inflation and the economy getting too strong? I mean, our base case here at Client First Strategy, that's the name of my investment firm, clientfirststrategy.com. You could check us out there. Our base case was, when we get to the second half of 2021, more people are vaccinated, stimulus, infrastructure bill, the economy is going to really pick up steam in the second half of 2021. But the base case has changed over the last few weeks, where, this resurgent, surging economy, it's happening now a lot earlier than we thought. And it's rolling now, but with a lot of torque. There's just a lot of torque in this. It's rolling faster and faster. Still, you could still keep up with the roll, but it's like a steamroller. They roll slowly, but try and stop that thing. Okay. So that's what's happening. And it's happening a lot quicker than people thought. So with such a big stimulus bill, is it actually good for the economy, or are we going to get a massive sugar high, gigantic jump in the economic activity with inflation, and then it all goes away in 2022? Or is this going to be the jump start that the economic engine needs in order to have enough escape velocity to move us past the pandemic? The thought with the Democrats is, better to go big, better to take care of it than go halfway or no way, and make the work that we did before this worthwhile by continuing it. The Republican side says, yeah, we should have a stimulus bill, but it doesn't have to be this darn big. We can always look at another one down the road. There's a point to that also. Maybe we could have done half the stimulus now and saved half of it based on certain metrics for the end, or for the second half of 2021, to see if we still need it. But this is a lot of money. So we're going to get into that, and how 90% of all Americans, including kids, college kids too. $1,400 a person. That money's going to get spent, and it's going to get spent pretty quickly. Yeah, there are some estimates that a lot of people, a lot of youngsters are going to put that into the stock market and play with a couple $100. That's okay. Listen, it's their money. They're allowed to do with their money whatever the heck they want. They're not breaking the law. All right. And I wonder, about Robinhood, for example, like one of the things that was a big deal were people, especially young people, trading on Robinhood, getting familiar with the market, democratizing the market. I know that Robinhood's had a ton of controversy, payment for order flow, gamification of investing, and using social media engineering tricks to get you to trade more than you should. I do believe that's the case. Robinhood is about order flow, not about some altruistic mission to do something right for you. So when they said, "Oh, we're no commission, so we're altruistic," they told you half the story. There's payment for order flow. So it's if you're going to be into full disclosure, then be into full disclosure. All right, that's all. Could we be about full disclosure? Is that so terrible? Full disclosure. So, but with the job scene getting better, and a lot of people who've lost their jobs or are only working part-time get back to work, are all these Robinhoodies still going to have the time and impetus to trade the way they've been for the last year? I wonder about that, because if your time is taken up, your time's taken up. There's only so much time in a day, right? Just food for thought. Let's take a look at the market today and some things that we could, I think, be somewhat optimistic for. So I'll do a quick share screen. I'll put myself up in the corner. Here we go. Hello. I'm up here in the upper left-hand corner. Hey, guys, listen, you have questions? Come on, ask me a question. Ask me anything. Dare you to knock that question off my shoulder. Come on, ask a question, and I'll answer. If you just want to say hello, let me know where you're watching from. That would be cool. And if you're watching and you don't give it a like or a heart or, some kind of reaction, I won't see who you are. So I see a few people watching, but it's all anonymous right now. But if you give it a like or a heart or a support, something, a laugh, whatever, if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn needs a laugh emoji reaction. They haven't done it yet. But, let me know you're out there. Let me know where you're from, where you're watching. And if you have anything that you want me to address while we're here. Okay, that's the best part about it. Like, you can actually ask your questions to a financial pro who's been doing this for over 30 years. I've written well over 100 articles for CNBC, and if I may say, I'm quoted pretty regularly in major media, New York Times, NBC, CNBC, Market Watch, Barron's, Wall Street Journal. The list goes on. I know a lot, and I would love to help you out. Okay, I'm happy to share my expertise with you, and whether if you use me or not, that the show is about learning and teaching, and it actually makes me better at what I do. So let's get into this. The Dow, I'll make the screen let's see if I can make it a little bit bigger without knocking everything off the screen. Okay, that works. Hopefully you can see this on your smartphone. But the Dow is up 464 points, new record, up 1.5%. The economically sensitive reopening stocks had a surging day today. What encouraged me is the NASDAQ. Yeah, the NASDAQ was down. Big deal. It was off about 5 points. After being up about 3.5% yesterday at a major surge, people were asking, "Oh, do you think the NASDAQ sticks? Is this just a bounce in an otherwise generally down market?" Because some of the biggest, up days in stock market history were during bear markets, while the market was still continuing to go lower. And my answer is always, let's see how it works tomorrow. If it could hold up tomorrow or only be down a little bit, then the rally is sticking. And that certainly is the case today, down 0.04%. I mean, the rally held up great from yesterday. The S&P was up 23 points. I'm really encouraged by the S&P holding up today, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. Gold finally started to rally a little bit. which is unusual because the CPI numbers, the consumer price index numbers, the main inflation gauge that we use for consumers, came out today, and it was 1.3% lower year over year, lower than expected. That's excluding food and energy. If you just go by the price of gas, there's clearly inflation, but that's the way the numbers work, like it or not. The core number was a little higher, but still the numbers were pretty tame. Made the bond market rally. We had a big bond auction today of 10-year treasuries, and some investors were worried that people wouldn't buy them. I said a week ago, and I want to reiterate this, a lot of foreigners find our treasuries very attractive because the 10-year U.S. treasury pays way more than the equivalent bonds of Germany, Japan, Great Britain, France, Italy, etc. So good deal for them. 10-year was off a little, 1.52%. The VIX came down at 22, down to 22. That's pretty low. I'd like to see it under 20, but let's keep going. Some of the industrial stocks that worked. Look, GE was off a little bit today, but they had a big deal. They're combining their aircraft leasing with another business. I'm not really sure how relevant it is, but GE just had a major surge. So the fact that it's backing off a little bit, I think, is understandable. Okay. I recently made a live stream. The title was, "Is GE back?" And my answer was, I'm talking from a fundamental and business survival point. Yes, GE is back. It's just finally being reflected in the price of the stock. But Boeing up $14, almost $15 today, $245. Wasn't that like $219 or $218 like a week ago, up over 6%? Deere continues to go. Deere went from 300 to 330 about 2 weeks ago, and people were like, wow, and now it's 360. Eaton Corp, Textron, ABB, Caterpillar, CSX Railroad, Emerson, Granger, CMI, Cummins Engines, 3M. I mean, look at these industrials. Wabash, these industrials really flew today. So industrial, economically sensitive stocks. And here's why I'm so impressed with the S&P being up over 20 points, about 25 points today. The biggest stocks in the S&P were all down. Look, Amazon was down, Google, Facebook, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple. These are the big six. They were all down, and yet the general stock market, as we define it as S&P 500, that's an index. As you know, you can't invest directly into an index. You could invest in a security that tracks or mimics an index, but you can't actually invest directly into an index. There is a difference. I have to point that out. So, but the big stocks were down, and yet, the S&P was still up. This is significant because it means that the rally we had from last March through the end of 2020, really through like November of 2020, there was a handoff going on that we want to see go smoothly, where the baton was being passed from the work from home, stay at home stocks that would benefit from the pandemic to the economically sensitive reopening stocks, this rotation. Today shows you that this rotation is definitely, clearly, strongly intact. Let's take a look at the winning sectors today. Energy up 2.5%. Financials, building materials, industrials. Look, I always say this: when energy, financials, and industrials, when they lead the way economically, that's a good sign. Okay. Investors are pumped on the economy, but overall, it was a pretty good day. Okay. Technology was off a little bit, but that's because of the big rally yesterday. But I want to just show you this, see if I could pull this up. XLE. Just want to show you a quick quote on that. All right. XLE, that's for the chart that's coming up. Year to date change. You see that? Energy up 41% year to date. All right. So we've got a couple of takeaways here to learn from all of this stuff. Jonathan, I see you out there, and I'm so glad. I appreciate that. I'm going to put your comment on the screen in 1 second. But what I want to point out is that this is why I always say, don't get overly carried away with all in or all out investing. I'm going to just get out of the market and wait for the market to go lower. You never get back in. You hesitate, you stall, Because if the market goes up, you're like, oh, I could have had it lower. I'll wait till it goes down again. And it goes down again. And you say, well, it's going down again. It's going lower. I'm going to wait. And then it goes up. I could have had it lower. And it's just endless procrastination. This is why we preach diversification here in the industry. Okay. This is what it's all about. I mean, if you have a financial advisor and they're not preaching diversification, I don't know if it's not my style. I preach diversification day in and day out. I'm not saying you can't go heavy into stocks. You can't take your risks. But, when you take too much risk, you don't necessarily get more return. You just get a big black hole in your net worth. Okay? So let's go on. This is why we don't do all in or all out. Say we're going to get all, into the reopening stocks and out of the tech stocks. You want them both, because this is just a seesaw. When interest rates didn't go as high as people thought. I said yesterday that 1.6% is the demarcation line, the line in the sand. Over 1.6%, investors get spooked. Rotations, the stay-at-home work-from-home stocks go down. Interest rates start to go a little, go lower. They go back up. So 1.6% and above is like a danger zone level on the 10-year Treasury. The yield in the 10-year Treasury. Below it, it's a happy medium. But when you have the interest rates low, inflation came out tame, at least for now, and you have strong earnings, economy picking up, it's Goldilocks. Decent growth with low inflation. That's what we call a Goldilocks economy, and it's really good for stocks in general. That's a good environment for stocks. Okay, so let's move over here. Okay, so we have Jonathan out there. Thank you, my friend. Mitch, where do you think the 10-year goes from here? Man, oh man, isn't that like the $64 trillion question, right? I think by the end of the year, the yield is over 2% with a lot of growth, and I think the market will handle it. And then the next worry is, will the Federal Reserve look at the surge in economic activity that we expect in the second half of this year and a surge in inflation? Look, I do expect a pretty big jump in inflation because, first of all, the numbers coming out next month are going to start to reflect recessionary numbers. I mean, we just started March. So March of 2020 to March of 2021, you're going to see a big year-over-year gain in inflation. Now, everybody knows it's because inflation went down because of the shutdowns, the economic lockdown. But I do think inflation surges. If the Federal Reserve, if the Fed continues to say this is transitory inflation, I think the market will hold up. But if the Fed starts to raise rates and starts to flatten the yield curve, flattens the yield curve, starts to hurt banks, which is the central nervous system of the economy. That starts to spread to other parts of the economy. Economic activity slows, and then you have higher rates of the slower economy, and that's not a good sign. So I'm looking at, I would say 2%. It's also a pretty common expectation that we see above 2% by the end of the year. So where could we be? 2.5%, 3%. I'll say 2.5%. Okay, I'm putting it down, 2.5%. I'm writing it down, 2.5%. Doesn't matter if I write it down. Nobody could read my handwriting anyway. Okay, and Jonathan is out there with another one. Fear prevents the reentry. The market climbs all over. So true. You get out because you're afraid. When do you get back in? I think something like a huge number of 65-year-old plus clients of Charles Schwab, something like, I saw something, a 40% number, a big number of people just liquidated their accounts when we slid into March. So they liquidated at a low, and they're probably not back in to the market at this point because they're waiting to retest that low. Oh no, things are going to get really bad. Things are going to get worse. We've got to wait. I'm going to wait. We'll wait for better times. You know what waiting means? Waiting for a better time just means you're going to have less time. That's all it means. Jerry, hey, Jerry, good to see you. Listen, this is a summer. We're going to ride our bikes, right? We're going to get together and do some hikes at the Cold Spring Trail, okay? So I'd love to do that. So I'll have to follow you because you're probably in a lot better shape than me. It's good to see you, Jerry. I really appreciate you taking the time. All right, so let's talk about the stimulus package because that is the big story of the day. I can't believe how time is flying by today. All right, so these are the things that you need to know. It's huge. It extends a $300 per week jobless aid supplement, and it supplements programs that make millions of people eligible for unemployment assistance extended through next September 6th. The plan also makes an individual's first $10,200 of benefits tax-free. And I believe that is for last year, for 2020, okay? The bill sends $1,400 to about 90% of the people in this country. Yes, biking, definitely. All right, I've got to put air in my tires. I have a pump, by the way, so I could always put air in my own tires. You see that? Air compressor. All right. So if you if you're an individual, $75,000. If you make under $75,000, you get the $1,400. By the time the income level gets up to $80,000, it's a very small shelf there. You know, from 75 to 80,000. You hit 80,000, you get completely phased out. You get nothing. Head of household is 100, and I have it written down here, but it's 120,000. Okay, I should know this by heart because we've been looking at these same numbers for like it's nothing but for like 2 or 3 months. It's all we've been looking at are these numbers. But 120,000 to 125,000 couple. If you make under 150,000, everybody in the family gets a check, right? This also includes adult age children with disabilities. It could also include senior citizens who are being listed as a dependent on your tax return, but it's phased out by 160,000. So there's a lot of people in states like New York, New Jersey, and California saying phases out by 160,000. Do people know how expensive it is to live here? But then people in other states will say, hey, it's not my fault you choose to live in an overpriced state. But the line has to be drawn somewhere. Hot hair, Mitch. I'm telling you, man, I'm having a good hair day. Oh, hot air. I think you said hot hair. I was like, I'm having a good hair day today. Hot air? LOL. Yes, LOL. And let's get back. All right. It expands a child tax credit for 1 year. It'll increase it to $3,600 for children under 6 and $3,000 for kids between 6 and 17. It used to be up to 60. Now it's up to 17 for this year. And checks for that will start going out pretty soon. The $1,400 checks could actually start going out as direct deposits in about a week to 10 days. So that can happen pretty quickly. All right. The stimulus adds $25 billion in rental and utility assistance and about $10 billion for mortgage aid, $350 billion of relief to state, local, and tribal governments. That is probably the most significant part of this bill, actually. All right. The proposal directs $120 billion for K through 12 schools. And it increases SNAP, food stamps by 15%. The bill includes expansion of subsidies and other provisions to help Americans afford health insurance. So an expansion of Obamacare, the ACA, offers nearly $30 billion in aid to restaurants. Okay. And it expands an employee retention tax credit designed to allow companies to keep workers on payroll. There's going to be so much written about this, and there's going to be a gazillion articles. Just hit like Google News, and you're going to see a ton of stuff about this. So I'm not going to waste your time and go over every little detail. I think the thing that you really want to know about are stimulus checks and child tax credit. By the way, if you don't qualify for the child tax credit, which I think goes up to an income of $200,000 for the expansion, you still get the $2,000 child tax credit for couples making up to $400,000. So there is something in there. Okay. But I know there's a lot of people who are disappointed with this. And I know there are a lot of people who are happy about it. 1.9 trillion costs each American over $5,000 each. It's probably about $15K per family. Well, a family of four would be 20, right? It's a crazy addition to the debt. It is a massive addition to the debt. The excuse or reasoning is, well, interest rates are low. Hey, listen, when interest rates were low over the summer, that probably would have been a good time to do a bigger stimulus, because now interest rates are higher, so it'll cost more. But yes, does something happen? Do we have to pay this money back, or are we just on MMT forever? I think it'll have to be paid back one day, but that day is not tomorrow. Okay, bigger than LBG's Great Society. COVID was only 7%. Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today. Stephen is also a financial advisor with decades of experience and one heck of a nice and smart guy. So thank you very much for joining me, Stephen. I appreciate it. Yeah, bigger than LBG's Great Society. It just the amount of money today. But what happens if things don't work out next year? And what happens when there's a new administration and they want to do reconciliation again? I think we have to get rid of this reconciliation thing. Every party has had their victory using reconciliation, right? We had a $1.7 trillion tax cut. That was Trump's signature economic plan, economic accomplishment. Now the Dems had the $1.9 trillion deal here. Why don't we just cut it off and say everyone's had enough? Because the party in power is just, they're not going to give that up. Not until they know they're going to lose. Okay. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for joining me. It was a really good show today, and it's great to see you guys. I'll be back tomorrow. If you have any questions or topics that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for ideas to talk about here, but the best ideas actually come from you. Really appreciate your time here. All right. Take care.